Hi Stampers, welcome. I'm Pat Verlis from Verlis Stamp and Flair, and today I'm going to show you how to make a shaped card. Now there's a lot of steps not to making the shaped card, but to make the end result card. And I've got some of them prepped, not all of them. I tried to pick and choose which ones I wanted to show you because it does include quite a few techniques. So we're going to get right to it. And hopefully I have everything back here. I got stuff everywhere. So I hope I have everything I need. And let me flip my camera over. So this is a card we're going to make. And this card is made with the Gears and Textures bundle. And I also used a different stamp set, Nature Symphony, for the sentiment. But as you can see, there's lots of bits and pieces to this. This stamp set is awesome. These dies are awesome. There's all kinds of shapes and stuff. But the thing I really want to focus on mainly is how I made this shaped card. And I used the Party Banners dies. So we're going to make that first. It's super easy. I do have to grab my Stampin' Cut and Emboss. And the plates are the base plate number 2 and then 2 of number 3 is just the standard sandwich for making a shaped a die cut. Now I've made this piece of cardstock 11 by 4 1/4, and I scored it at 5 1/2. And I want to, this is really easy and quick, but I want to show you how to do it. I probably should have burnished this fold a little bit. I am using the Party Banners dies, like I stated, and these have, I don't know how many they're in here. How many dies are in here? 20. And they go from very large, as you can see, the envelope that they come in, packet is large, down to very tiny. I am using this is the 5th largest. So there are 4 more that are bigger than this. And I'm going to try to show you this on these dies. If you're familiar with our dies, we have the cutting edge, and I want to lay that so that that cutting edge is just off the fold so that I don't cut the top of it. So what I found with this particular die that worked best for me is if I just lined up this bottom edge of the die with the fold. And I'm going to lay that on here, and I'm going to put this at a bit of an angle, line up the sides. When I say a bit of an angle through my machine, the reason I'm doing that is because that reduces the effort it takes to crank a die through a machine. If you put it straight like this and it hits this flat edge, then that really increases the effort that you have to put into cranking it. So when I have dies that are just like a straight edge, I put them at an angle. So that's just a little bit of a hint. I'm grabbing some washi tape here because I want to make sure that this thing doesn't slide and it stays off the fold. Because if it slides down, then I lose my fold, right? So, all right, so let's line that up again with the top. The bottom of this edge, I'm aligning with the fold, and that will make that little cutting edge just above the fold. And I am just going to tape this down and then double check it to make sure the sides are straight and the top is still straight. And it looks pretty good. So, but I didn't do that at an angle. I'm telling you all about the angle and then I forget to do it. So let's just move it down. Doesn't have to be a huge angle, but that caused the, okay. It's not this hard. It's not as hard as I'm making this look, guys. Let me get that just above the fold and align up the edges. All right. So there we go. So it's at a slight angle. So this point will hit first. And because I'm cutting through 2 layers of cardstock, I am going to go through once. I'm going kind of slowly because it cuts better when you go slow. And then we're going to crank it back. And it does look like it slid to the left just a bit, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, let's check it out. Main thing here is I want to make sure I did not cut the fold. And I'm using a banner die, but you can use any kind of die you want. I use this because it's a larger die, and so I get basically a full-size card. And you can see that that is not cut. So that's how we get our fun-shaped card. Now, I need fronts and backs, so I might as well, or inside, I might as well go ahead and cut those 2. I have 1 cut, but I still need to cut 1 more. And just to keep it from twisting, let's just take a piece of that and go ahead. Doesn't have to be on there straight, doesn't matter. But tilt it as you go through just to keep that effort, cranking effort down. And I'm at a little awkward disadvantage here. If I had it straight on, it's a little easier, right? Okay, so we have now the front of our card, which needs a lot of work, but I'm just going to set that aside. And I'm going to, while I'm at die cutting, I'm going to cut some of the other pieces. Some I already have cut, some I do not. And I kept the ones, I kept mainly this large gear die. I wanted to show you how I made this large circle gear here. So I took, this is the largest circle die from Stylish Shapes. And this is one of the gear dies from Gears and Textures. And we're just going to center that in there. Just center it as close as you can. And again, I'm going to use a little bit of washi tape. I have 1 tiny little piece left here. Just to kind of hold it in place. And this is a chain, looks like a chain die. And this one kind of creates like a little bit of mesh. So we're just going to run this through. And I'm going to put the short in first. Again, that helps my effort. And make sure this stays in the center as best you can. If it's not perfect, nobody will know except for you. And we move this out. I'm going to keep it close in case we need it again, but I don't think we do. So there's my chain. Here's my gear cog, my large gear. And I'm going to put my dies in a little tray I have over here so I don't lose these. And then we'll take this mesh one. Like I said, I got stuff everywhere. So we got to get these out of here. And we're going to color all of these things a bit. So there we go. I have to put them somewhere where I won't lose them. And I'm going to move some things out of here that I'm done with. And I think our die cutting, I think that's it for die cutting. I already have cut this and I've already cut all these little dies. I figured you didn't need to watch me do that. If you see one die cut, the main thing I wanted to show you with the die cutting was when you have an element that has that flat edge on the die, like a straight edge. that, put that through so it goes through and you hit a corner first, just to help reduce your effort a little bit. So, okay, now let's go ahead and color this background, and that is just a lot of stamping. So I'm going to grab my thing here to try to keep the ink off from my table. And we're going to grab this, and I'll show you. This is just random stamping to do a collage. I'm using basic beige, smoky slate, a little touch of Blackberry Bliss. My card base is Blackberry Bliss, the one I just die cut. And then we got a little bit of Pool Party. And this is the fun and easy part. Now I should have grabbed my chamois because I am going to need that. Okay. And the stamps I'm using from Gears and Textures for this collage on the front, I'm going to use this circle, these splotches, a little gear, and this crosshatch. That's it. So first we're just going to start with basic beige with circles. Make sure I'm all in. I'm going to move these forward just a bit. So basic beige, and just kind of random stamp. There's really no, this is not truly one of the things I am great at, is making collages, but I guess my advice is don't overthink it. Okay, so I'm going to do some in basic beige, and then I'm going to do some in smoky slate. So I'm going to clean my stamp, and we'll do some smoky slate. And smoky slate I'm going to stamp off because it's a little dark, in my opinion. So I don't want the things too dark. Okay, so we'll clean that so if I need it later, I don't mix it up. And then we're going to take it, we're going to do basic beige one more time. And I'm going to ink it up with basic beige. And then I'm going to take a sponge dauber and Pool Party, and I'm just going to add a little bit on the stamp, a little Pool Party, just to give this a little bit of color. And then before I ink it again with basic beige, clean it, because I don't want to put that Pool Party ink in my basic beige. And we'll do one more where we add a little bit of color. And I'm just, again, I'm not putting that Pool Party everywhere. Most of the center here is going to be covered up, so I'm not worrying about that too much. And I think it looks kind of funny. And now let's add some basic beige speckles here and there. And again, this, I think I tend to overthink this. So my best way to say it is that collages are not meant to be overthunk. So here's Pool Party, and we're going to add just a little bit of these cross hatches. Again, not a lot. We'll put one up here. A lot of it's getting covered up, so you kind of have to think about, well, what am I going to cover up? And I know I'm going to cover up most of the center, so no point in wasting time stamping there. And I just want to add, nope, I'm not going to add gears. We'll save gears for somewhere else. So I'm going to call that good on stamping. Now, to tone it down a little bit, let's take a blending brush with our basic beige and just kind of shade some of this. This just sort of mutes it. Doesn't make it so white. That's kind of what I'm trying to do, is just get rid of a little bit of the white. Basic beige is an interesting color. I don't use it very often. It's kind of got a little bit of a greenish tint to it, which I always would not associate. If somebody said basic beige, I'd think it'd be browns and tans and whatever, but this basic beige has a little bit of a greenish tint. So can you see how that's softening some of these stamped areas a little bit? It just kind of mutes it, tones it down. And interestingly, when you stamp and then go back and look at it later, as the ink dries, it also gets lighter in color, which I find interesting. Okay, so the next thing let's do is let's go ahead and I'll show you what I did with this cog here, this big large gear. And this is die cut from watercolor paper. And we're going to use our water painters to just add a little bit of color to that. So I'm going to take my brush one and I'm going to use basic beige, smoky slate, and Pool Party. And I should have grabbed some blocks. So I'm just going to add some ink. We could use re-inkers as well. If you want more color, a re-inker will be better than picking it up from here. But I'm just putting this on a paper towel to try to keep my grid sheet dry. And I have a little glass of water over here that I'm going to just get rather than squeeze and squeeze, I'm just going to wet this a little bit. That'll help the ink to flow. And then I just kind of tapped randomly. I wasn't picky at all. Again, I was just trying to kind of clean my brush between colors, just to kind of take some of the stark white away. So here's some smoky slate. Darker, of course, and if you want it lighter, just squeeze your water painter. And you can brush it and see how that'll lighten it up if you don't want it quite that dark. I don't mind a little dark. And I'm just tapping because I really just tapping, swishing. I just really kind of want a wash on there. I don't want a whole lot of color. And then we'll pick up some Pool Party and just scribble a little of that on there. And if it gets too dark, again, squeeze, get some water out and tap it with the water and it'll. So that's basically all I was after there. It's kind of probably hard to see. You can see it a little bit better in person. If you have any areas you want to kind of brush out where you feel it needs something, just go ahead and add. If it's not as smooth as you want or as blended. Now this really should set aside and dry. So I'm going to set aside and dry. I have another one that I've made that I can use. I am going to wipe these off before I stick something in them that shouldn't go in them. How many of us haven't done that? A lot. I'm playing with danger here by having these out here, right? But now we're going to make our cog. And I'm going to take a blending brush and I'm going to add some basic beige to it. Again, I just don't want it to be this white. It's really very white. So we're just going to kind of get some basic beige on here. And then I'm going to grab a clean one and I'm going to add some smoky slate as well, just kind of in keeping with the colors. Now here we have to be careful because smoky slate is dark. Not real dark, but darker than basic beige. So clean it off on your grid sheet before you, or scrap paper, whatever you use. Now I did this a little different the first time, the one I made on the card, and I'm going to try to do it a little bit different this time because I had a couple things happen that I wasn't crazy about. I'll show you this. We're going to emboss the outer edges and the center edge with silver embossing powder, and then I had some white gears on here. When I did this the first time, I embossed the white gears and the silver first, and then I kind of used an emboss resist. Well, it was looking a little blah, so when I went and added my Blackberry Bliss, because it's a lot of red and it's dark, you can see on this one gear here, it did not all want to come off. So I'm going to do those white gears last. I'm going to add my speckles first. So I've got some speckles. I want a few Pool Party speckles here. Not a lot. Just enough to give it a little color. I'm going to clean it. And we'll go ahead and add just a bit of Blackberry Bliss. And I'm going to stamp off for the first one just to see how, yeah, that's fine. And I don't even think I'm going to re-ink. Okay. That's good. I didn't want a lot and I didn't want it too dark. So let's get rid of these inks now. I'm not totally finished with them, but I'm finished for now. For this piece. And I don't want to drop something in the ink pads because I am really good at doing that. So I always try to close them up. So now what I wanted to show you is how I emboss this outer edge, which I would call an OD, outside diameter, and inside diameter, or the ID. I used Versamark. We're going to do that first and heat emboss that first before we do the gears. And it probably doesn't matter. That's just the order I'm going to do it. So I'm using Versamark and a little sponge dauber. And I probably will even do this in 2 steps. We're going to do the outside first. So I'm just going to, we'll see if I can do it all at once. Now I did not use I do want to make sure that ink is nice and dry because I don't want that in that Versamark. Probably can do them both at once, the inside and the outside. We'll try. And I'm not being particularly careful about how little or how much. I do kind of want it to look erratic. And now we'll just go ahead on the inside and get some on the inside diameter. If I get too much, we'll be able to see it when I put the embossing powder on. If I don't get enough, we always can come back and add some more. I didn't pay attention where I started. I think I started over here. Okay. So I'm going to set this aside. And let's go ahead and add some silver embossing powder. The reason I didn't use my embossing buddy on here is because I don't really care if I get silver speckles. We're just going to go ahead and dump this on there. I am not shy when it comes to putting on embossing powder. I'd rather have too much than not enough. Now, some of these edges you can see did get a little thick. So I'm just going to take my finger and just knock some off. Now, I did say the last time I did my inking after this. So because this ink is probably still slightly damp, I think I'm getting more silver in the center than I did the first time. But we'll see how it looks. I can wipe this with my finger to get some of that off from there. Okay. Let's see how that looks. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, you really don't want it to look too perfect. I just kind of want it to look random and messy on the edges, like it's warm. Sorry about the noise. I know it calms down eventually. Once it starts, it goes pretty fast. It just has to heat up. I love watching metallic embossing color. Turn from plain old gray to shiny silver. It's like magic. It has never, after almost 20 years of doing this, it has never ceased to amaze me and make me happy. Okay. This off. I'll hold this on the other side, I think. Great. And if it's starting to curl, sometimes I find if I heat the back side, it'll flatten out a little bit. Okay. That turned out just fine. So now I'm going to add some, now I will use my embossing buddy because we're going to do these gears. And I don't really want white speckles, so we'll use the embossing buddy. Plus, if the ink is a little damp or the silver is heated, then it'll help. So I'm going to use the smallest gear from the set, and we're just going to kind of add a few of these somewhat randomly. Can't see where the first one was. Well, let's just go with 4 first. And then if I need to, I can add another one. And we are going to do these with white. Well, it probably isn't as random as it should have been. Looks kind of square, but that's all right. See how it looks when it's heated. Okay, and as I look at this, I'm going to add one more kind of here in this area. Somebody does tell us that we should do things in odd numbers. So I'm going to add one right in here. And I have a little bit of muff right there. So maybe I'll just add one over that too. It could very well be covered up in the end, but we'll do it this way. Okay. And get that out of there. I'll heat this up. See what it looks like. I like that better. Again, it doesn't matter. So now do I have, oh, the other pieces that I have are the chain that we die cut and then a couple pieces of this mesh tucked in here. And I did color those and I just used sponge dauber to do that. It's easier. You could use a blending brush, but sometimes with these little lightweight things, a dauber, you can be a little bit more careful with it. So I am going to use, I'm going to do it all over with basic beige kind of, and then I'll go back in and add some random of our accent colors. So I'm just going to, and we don't have to be fancy, just get some ink on. Doesn't even have to be equal, right? I just don't want them white. Whoops. Okay. And I'm going to grab a little bit. I got to get the ink off here because I did not grab another sponge dauber. So let's go ahead and add some smoky slate here and there on these. There is no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. So these are things that normally I can stress over. Excuse me, but I've kind of learned to try not to do that. So let's go ahead. I don't think I put any pool party on mine, but I'm gonna, so I do have a pool party. Dauber out here. We'll just add a little bit of that. And I do want a touch of the Blackberry Bliss. And Blackberry Bliss can be dark, so we're not going to see a lot of this. This is just kind of a little bit of an accent. Just to give it a little bit of color. And I think we are ready for assembly. So I don't know if you could see it on this card or not. And I decided not to make this for you, but there is a strip back here. I'm going to hold it close and hold it still. You can see this pattern. There is a strip of vellum, and I also have vellum behind the sentiment. So I pre-made those. I wanted to give you one tip about embossing vellum. I wanted to use this design here. And so my first piece of vellum I made, I used that. But what I found, when you emboss vellum, the areas that you emboss turn white. And because this was such a heavy pattern, I got a lot more white than I wanted. So when I laid it down on my card, you weren't able to see through the vellum as much as I wanted. So I went ahead and used the Join Together embossing folder. This is part of the Kintsugi suite of products. And this embossing folder is interesting because it's got a lot of different patterns. So it kind of decided this looked kind of industrial to me. So I tried to get as much of that as I can. And here's what I ended up with. And we're just going to adhere this to our shaped front. Now, what I thought I would take a minute to show you is how I adhere vellum. For years and years, need my silicone mat. For years and years, I have used a piece of sponge, and it works great. You just make a pile of adhesive on your silicone mat, and you take a sponge, dab it in the glue, and then put it on here. That works great. I saw this hint from Sharon Armstrong in one of her things from Creative 8, and she took a silicone brush, this is a basting brush, snipped these short, and for this card, for the first time, I decided to use this, and I liked it. As far as applying the glue, both work fine. What you want to do is tap it and then tap a lot off so you don't have too much on. You want to keep it light. And that is also true if you're going to use a sponge. Don't add, you don't want to see piles of glue on your vellum or it will show through. So if you just keep this very light, then when you go to adhere it to your cardstock, and I want mostly this, so I'm going to line this one up at the top. Camera's in my way. And just bring this down. What I found in embossing vellum, these more open, it depends on the look you want, but if you want to see the embossing on the vellum without turning it too white, use patterns that aren't too dense. This one's good too. You can see there's a lot of open space that's not embossed. And that seems to work better. So now we're just going to trim this bottom down even with the card. If you want it to look more white, then go ahead and use a more dense embossing folder. I think I missed a little piece here. There we go. And again, I'm going to clean some stuff out of my way. The pile behind me is getting messier and messier. So that piece is now done, and we can go ahead and adhere this to our card front. There's something on here. I don't know what that is. A snippet of something was on there. And I adhered it directly. Okay. And the next piece I put on here is our large gear. And my hint here is add adhesive just towards the inside diameter. Don't go too far out because you want to tuck things under it. I tried to lay them all out first, but I found it really helped me if I it was easier to tuck and figure out where I wanted them if this one was adhered down. So keep the outside free, and then you can stick things wherever you want. Because I did take these chains, and I took this chain that we made, and I actually just cut it in half. And I stuck one side down here and another side up here near the top. Now, I can't, because I glued that down. What side do I want up? Let's put the side up with the red. I'm just going to trim a little bit more off so I can just tuck it under there. And again, for these small little things like this that we're gluing, this silicone brush worked great for this too. Because these are kind of hard to get glue on, right? So tap it off and then just kind of tap it on there. So we're going to have that stick out. It's still a tad bit long. So I'm just going to cut a little bit more off. I could have laid these down before the circle. In fact, I probably did. But it doesn't matter. Okay, stick that there. And the other half is somewhere. Who sees my other half? Not me. Oh, it's on the card right here. All right. Thought I was losing it there for a minute. Not the piece, my mind. Well, actually both. So go ahead and stick this out here. Now on this mesh, same thing. We're going to stick a piece up here. So it just peeks out the top. So I'm going to cut some off because I did glue that down. But again, it doesn't matter. The best thing I found with this little silicone brush, don't get me wrong, the sponge has worked well for me for years and years and years. What I like about the silicone brush, however, is that it's as easiest to clean as this little mat is. The silicone, it doesn't stick. The glue doesn't stick to it. With the brushes, you do eventually have to toss them out, or the sponges, you do eventually have to throw them away because they get really yucky. Okay, so we'll just stick that there. All right, where are we? Let's go ahead and add this cog, then I can see where I want to tuck things. So for this, I am just going to adhere this with one dimensional here in the center. Check if I put some out further. I did put some pieces out further, but I can probably use, well, let's just take this. Who else uses their edges? I think the edges are my favorite part of the dimensionals, quite honestly. There. That'll keep it assure it's flat when it gets mailed to someone. So let's just go ahead and add this right up here. And what I'd like to do now is stick the sentiment on. The sentiment, I have it pre-made. This is embossed with white embossing powder on Blackberry Bliss. This is from the Nature Symphony stamp set. And I also did take another little piece of vellum here that is die cut with a stylish shaped die. Here's our stylish shaped die. We already used the largest circle. This one is cut with this one, the shorter, chubbier one. And what you want to do if you're going to die cut vellum is die cut first, then emboss. If you emboss first, this is true with anything, not just vellum. If you emboss it first and then die cut, it'll flatten it out. But I have gone ahead and assembled that. So I'm going to put that here, and I'm going to add just a bit of dimensional. Just going to cut a strip from my dimensionals because this is going to be mostly on the gear, but I've got a little bit down here not supported. So we'll just add this, and I'm going to keep it behind the cardstock sentiment so that when you flip it over, you don't see it. And then I will take a little liquid adhesive and put that up here. And again, keeping it behind the cardstock so you don't see it. And I'm going to stick that right there and hold it just for a minute while I move some of my stuff. Lots of stuff. All right, now I have cut a bunch of dies. I wasn't going to make you watch me make dies, but I thought I'd show you the dies of the gears. We have this is the largest, we'll call it the largest of the small dies, and it makes a piece like this. Cool. We have, oh, I did not want to do that. Oh, well. The small die, smallest gear, makes a piece like this. Okay. And then there is this gear that makes a gear like this one. And you can layer these in any ways you want. But I'm just going to go ahead and start tucking them in. And what I used here is all different types. I just use scraps of silver foil that I have. I had a metallic brushed foil that I've had for a long time. And you know, it's really hard to throw scraps of foil away. So this is a great way to use those. And I just went through my silver foil scraps and started. This one is kind of a purpley foil. Came in one of the silver foils where they'd add pewter. So I think I want silver over here. This is just regular silver foil. And we'll add some little ones. I feel like I have two. I do. Okay, I need one over here, I think. Down here. Kind of figure out where I want them, and then I'll need one in the center. This is a duller one. Let's use that. And I think I need one down here. Silver, maybe. These two are the same, so I think that'll work. It's pretty close to what I had before. Not that it has to be, but let's just go ahead and add these. And if they're tucked down under here, for the most part, I just adhered them directly. So put some just in the center and tuck them under. And same with this one. go. Add this little one over here. This one we'll add right here in the center. Oh, it wants to stick to my fingers better than it wants to stick to the paper. And this one, I think I'm going to put, I think I'm going to pop it up level with the, yeah, we'll just put it down flat too. I was going to pop it up the same height as the sentiment, but this will be fine. I want to cover up my whole little chain there, so I'll stick it between the mesh and the chain. And there we go. We are done except for some gems. And I found these druzy things that were nice and sparkly. And I like sparkle. So I stuck one in the middle of this gear. And we're going to put another one up here. And let's just go stick a small one up here. I could put one in the center of every gear, but I think that's enough. So there, that completes the front of our card. I told you it was a lot of steps. It wouldn't have to be for a shaped card. You could make this very simple. Just put some flowers on the front, whatever. But I was using this stamp set. So this card will be on my blog tomorrow with a full tutorial with all the dimensions and step-by-step written directions. And then this video will also be linked to that so you can see how the video goes. I won't take time to do the inside of the card today on the video, but we do have it cut, ready to go, and I'll just show you what I did. I just stamped a collage down here in the corner and then used the blending brush like I did for the very first layer. Okay, and on my envelope, I just stamped some of the images of the gears and textures, and I used a little bit of the basic beige blending brush. So let's go ahead and flip my camera back. All right. How long did that take? I don't know. I don't know what time I started. I've been playing with my mics again. I did it the same way as last week, so I hope it works. We will see. It's telling me on my screen my mic is muted, but the one on my phone should still be picking me up, so I hope it is. Worked last week anyway, but I got some weird messages at the beginning about mic issues. So I ended up turning everything off and starting over, and hopefully it's okay and you can hear me. Have a great day. If you have any questions, leave questions down below in the comments. I will certainly do my best to answer questions. You can also leave questions on the blog if you look at the blog tomorrow. And until then, have a great day, and we will see you next week with something else.